All right, so today we're taking a deep dive into something a little spooky, kelpies. You sent over a few articles about them, and I gotta say, I'm pretty intrigued.
Yeah, kelpies are fascinating. They really embody that relationship between humans and nature.
And water, particularly.
Right. Oh, absolutely. Especially water.
It's not just like, they're scary or whatever. It's like they're really woven into Scottish history and storytelling.
Right. You see, their stories aren't just entertainment. They give us a glimpse into how people viewed the natural world, the fears, the respect.
For sure.
Yeah.
So for those listening who maybe aren't familiar with kelpies, what exactly are they?
Okay, so picture this. You're by a river, maybe a stream, right? It's kind of foggy. And you see this sleek black horse.
Okay.
That's your classic kelpie.
Hmm.
They're shape-shifting water spirits.
So they can take other forms
They can, but the horse is the most common and probably the most deceptive too.
because it looks like a normal horse.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the danger. They lure travelers, especially children, close enough to grab them.
Oh, I see.
But get this, their skin. It's like adhesive. Once you're on a kelpie's back, you're stuck.
No kidding. So there's no getting off. What happens then?
Well, they take you for a ride straight into the water.
Ah, that makes sense. One of these articles mentioned a story about a kid who had to cut off his own hand to get away. Pretty gruesome stuff.
It is. But these stories were warnings, right?
Yeah, to keep kids away from the water. Makes sense. I mean, back then, rivers and streams were pretty dangerous anyway.
Absolutely. Unpredictable, perilous.
So not only do you have to worry about the water itself, but then there's this thing that could, change right in front of you. What do you think that says about how people saw, the unseen forces of nature?
Right. I mean, there's definitely unease there, fear of the unknown. And water itself is essential, but it can also be incredibly destructive.
For sure, for sure.
So kelpies represent that unpredictable side of nature, the forces beyond our control,
Right.
the things we can't quite grasp. Yeah, okay, I get that. Now, we've been talking about this scary, menacing kelpie, but there's this story from the Isle of Barra that kind of paints a different picture.
Oh, right.
This kelpie actually wants companionship. Like, it's trying to win over a human woman.
Yeah. It's fascinating, isn't it?
It is. What do you make of that story, compared to all the other ones?
Well, it shows us that kelpies aren't always these, evil beings.
Right.
It explores loneliness, desire, maybe even connection between the supernatural and human worlds.
Yeah, because in this one, the woman manages to actually enslave the kelpie.
Right.
She takes his necklace, which is like a bridle, and he can't change back.
Right. For a whole year.
It's quite a power shift.
It is. And it makes you think about control, dominance. There are a lot of kelpie stories where people try to subdue them or even kill them.
It's like master the kelpie's power.
Yeah, exactly. Like the McGregor clan. They claim to have a kelpie bridle passed down through generations. Gives them control over a kelpie.
Whoa, that's intense. Are there any other ways to, defeat a kelpie?
Oh, yeah. Some say you can shoot it with a silver bullet.
Does that kill it?
It does. And then the kelpie melts into, this jelly-like goo. Pretty strange.
So definitely not your average monster fight, huh?
Not at all. It shows the kind of respect, maybe fear, that people had for these creatures.
Right. They weren't just monsters you could easily defeat. They were a force of nature. And what's interesting? You've been talking about these stories, these attempts to control kelpies or kill them, but they pop up in other places too, like literature, art even.
Absolutely. Robert Burns mentions them in Address to the Devil. They're haunting these fords, leading travelers to their doom.
And what about more modern depictions?
Well, have you heard of the Kelpie's sculpture in Falkirk?
I think so.
2 massive horse heads, 30 meters tall.
30 meters, that's huge.
Right. It's a monument to Scotland's industrial heritage.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. They're named Duke and Baron. Duke's on the left looking down and Baron's on the right, and he's kind of watching. It's almost as if they're about to do something,
Oh, wow, I see what you mean.
And they're not exactly terrifying, but there's a certain intrigue to them.
It's like they're not just horse statues. They have this deeper meaning.
Exactly. They blend history and myth.
The real and the imagined.
And that's what keeps us fascinated, isn't it?
Totally. And that actually reminds me of another water spirit, the each-ezige. They seem even scarier than kelpies.
Oh, definitely.
So what's the difference?
Well, they both shape-shift into horses and love dragging people into the water, but the each-ezige is way more vicious. And kelpies hang out in rivers and streams, but each-ezige are in lochs and the sea, deep water.
So if kelpies are about the danger of rivers, each-ezige are about the deep unknown parts of the water.
Yeah, you could say that. And here's another creepy thing. Even if you get on each oozage's back on land, if it smells water or even sees it, its skin gets sticky, like the Kelpie.
Just like the Kelpie, and it bolts straight to the nearest loch.
Oh no. So you think you're safe, but then doom.
Exactly. It's a reminder that even when things seem calm, danger can be lurking.
It's like they're two sides of the same coin, right? These two water spirits.
Yep.
Both terrifying, but representing different aspects of the dangers of water.
And, it makes you wonder, are there other water horse myths out there in other cultures?
That's a great question. And you know what? We're actually going to explore that very question when we come back after a quick break. Stay with us.
So you were asking about water horses in other cultures.
Yeah. I'm really curious to hear about some of those examples.
Okay, well, let's head up north, shall we? To Orkney.
Orkney.
It's an archipelago off the coast of Scotland. They've got this creature called the Nuggle.
The Nuggle.
And guess what?
It's a horse.
Well, more like a pony. But it has a fishtail.
A horse with a fishtail. That's pretty wild. Is it as scary as a Kelpie?
Maybe not as aggressive, but you still wouldn't want to run into one.
What does it do? It lures people, mostly children, with music, enchants them, and then drowns them in the sea.
So it's more about, trickery, not just brute strength like the Kelpie.
Exactly. Deception and allure.
And what about the Shetland Islands? You mentioned those too.
Right. They've got the Schuppeltee.
Okay, the Schuppeltee, another water horse.
Yep. This one's a small, shaggy pony, and its mane is always dripping wet.
Always. Ew.
And unlike the Nuggle, who hangs out by the sea, the Schuppeltee is all about the moors and bogs. Misty places.
A dripping pony in the fog. I'd be creeped out even if it wasn't, supernatural.
Oh, definitely. And that's kind of its thing, leading travelers astray, especially in the fog.
So it plays in your confusion.
Exactly. It makes you lose your way.
Oh, wow. That's scary.
It is. And then there's the Isle of Man. That's between Britain and Ireland. They have the Cabal Ushti.
The Cabal Ushti, what's that one like?
This one's a real shapeshifter. It can be a horse, a human, or even a mix of both.
That's freaky. So is it drawn to water too, like the others?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Still loves a good drowning. But here's the thing. It can also offer you favors.
Favors? What kind of favors?
Well, anything, really. But in return, it wants to ride on your back.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, it's a risky deal. The price is usually your soul.
Oh, no, not your soul. It's like a deal with the devil.
Pretty much a classic Faustian bargain. And it's not just the British Isles. These water horse myths, they're everywhere.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Wales has the Cephuldu,
Right.
another shapeshifter, another lover of drowning people.
So it's a universal thing.
Yeah.
This fear of water horses.
It seems that way, right?
Yeah.
It's like there's this shared mythology across cultures.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
It is, and it makes you think, what is it about water that inspires these stories, these fears?
Well, we talked about how each eage might represent the fear of the deep unknown parts of the water.
Right, exactly.
So maybe it's about respecting the power of water. It can give life, but it can also take it away.
Absolutely. These creatures, they embody that duality. And the fact that these stories have been around for so long across so many cultures, it means they're tapping into something deep within us, something fundamental about our connection to nature.
It's funny. At first, I thought we'd just be talking about, spooky stories.
Right.
But it's so much more than that. These stories, they tell us about our fears, our beliefs, our relationship with the natural world.
And as we go deeper into the world of Kelpies, we're going to find even more meaning, even more connections to mythology and the human experience.
I'm ready. So are there any, common themes you've noticed with all these water horses?
Well, deception is a big one.
Deception.
Yeah. Many of them, they look harmless, even alluring. They trick their victims.
Don't trust a pretty horse by the water.
Right. Don't be fooled by appearances.
Uh,
And then there's transformation.
oh, right. The shape-shifting.
Exactly. They blur the lines between animal and human.
It's kind of like they represent the chaos that's hidden beneath the surface of things.
Yes. And the fact that they're connected to water, this powerful, unpredictable element, it just adds to that.
Right. It's like they're both beautiful and dangerous, just like water itself.
Absolutely. They're the duality of nature, creation and destruction, all wrapped up in one.
This is amazing.
Yeah.
I'm starting to understand these stories on a whole new level.
That's what I love about them. They're not just about monsters. They're about us. They're about our place in the world.
I'm so glad we're doing this deep dive. It's been a whirlwind tour.
It has. We've gone from Scotland to Orkney to Shetland to the Isle of Man, even Wales, all these amazing water horse myths.
And you know what? It's time to go back to the source. Let's dive back into the heart of Kelpie lore.
Back to Scotland.
Back to Scotland, to uncover what these creatures really mean to the Scottish people.
And how they continue to shape the nation's identity.
I can't wait. All right, so we're back and ready to really dig into what these Kelpies mean for Scotland.
Yeah, we've talked about their tricks and how they fit into Scottish folklore, but
Right. But what about their cultural significance? Like, what do they really represent? How have they, impacted Scotland's identity?
well, they definitely highlight how connected Scotland is to its water.
Yeah, with all the lochs and rivers.
Right. It's always been a source of, both life and danger.
And Kelpies embody both sides of that.
Exactly. They're this reminder of nature's power, something to be respected, maybe even a little afraid of.
Yeah, like those stories are warnings, right?
They are. They are. Like, hey, be careful around the water. There are things lurking beneath the surface.
It's almost like a cultural memory,
Yeah.
passed down through generations.
It is. It's how people learned to live with nature, to respect its power.
And I bet there's more to it than just those practical warnings.
Oh, absolutely. Kelpies play a big role in, a more symbolic sense, too.
Okay, I'm listening. What do you mean?
They represent that untamed spirit of Scotland itself.
Wild and dangerous.
Exactly. There's this allure, but also this danger.
It all ties back to that, the mystery, the unknown. Like we've been talking about those boundaries between what we know and what we don't.
Right. And in Scotland, with all its myths and legends, those lines can get pretty blurry.
It's like the past is still alive there.
Yeah.
The stories shape how people see themselves.
And Kelpies with their shape-shifting, their connection to the water.
And their unpredictability.
Yes. They
Yeah.
really embody that idea of blurred boundaries.
It's like they represent the wild heart of Scotland.
You got it.
Inspiring and terrifying all at once. Maybe
Maybe
that's why we're still so fascinated by them.
it could be. They make us question what's possible, what's real.
They make us look beyond the surface, right?
Exactly. And appreciate the mystery, the wonder of it all, and the power of stories to help us understand ourselves.
I never thought I'd be thinking about all this from, just talking about Kelpies. It's amazing.
That's the beauty of folklore. It's more than just stories. It's about us. It's about our connection to nature, to the world around us.
It's been an incredible journey, this whole deep dive. We've covered so much.
We have, from those early Scottish myths to water horses all over the world, and ultimately it's about appreciating those stories and what they tell us about ourselves.
Well said. And on that note, I think it's time to wrap things up.
Yeah.
To all our listeners out there, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Kelpies. Keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep that sense of wonder alive.
And until next time, remember, there's magic in the unknown, especially when it comes to the power of water.